to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video we will be playing the game Rebel Fury. This is originally published by GMT Games and is designed by Mark Herman. It is part of the system that he developed for the C3I magazine games Gettysburg and Waterloo. And this one is a game that has 6 battles in it with 3 different maps, and it allows you to play a bunch of different battles because each of the maps shares 2 battles. As you can see here on the screen, we've got Fredericksburg and Chancellorsville, which of course are very close to each other. Chickamauga and Chattanooga is the same, and obviously the Wilderness and Spotsylvania also. So the Fredericksburg scenario in the tabletop game is basically optimized for solitaire. But the nice thing about this PC adaptation is, unlike the tabletop game, which is a 2-player game, it is soloable, I've done it, but it's best played with 2 players. Here at least you have the AI as your opponent, and the AI in this system, which is programmed by Hexes of War, is very well done. It'll give you a good challenge. It knows what it's doing. So it really works out well. So what I'm going to do is I am going to play on this PC, and I'm actually going to play Chancellorsville, because if you're unfamiliar with the history of that particular battle, Joe Hooker was the commanding general of the Army of the Potomac at that time, and he had a plan which, if he had executed it, might have actually been very effective against Lee, but he kind of lost his nerve, and Lee did some brilliant generalship on his part of actually splitting his forces multiple times and fighting different areas of the federal forces, and ended up winning the battle. And it basically ended Hooker's career as a a high level commander. He still commanded corps and corps level forces and so on down the road, but at this point he was he had a reputation as fighting Joe Hooker, and it kind of went away because he really lost his nerve at a key moment. So I'm going to play as the Union and see if I can do a little bit better, and see if I can uphold the name Joe here, or do just as bad or even worse. Now, before we do that, you can see the game begins in the movement phase. The Union's executing a turning movement and is the first player for the first 2 turns. After that, initiative is determined by the number of battle stars, and we'll get into that as we play. Hooker remains on the map for the first 2 turns. The Union has the Stafford Heights heavy artillery concentration and some pontoon bridges already placed, and has 3 additional pontoon bridges for placement. Now, what they're talking about there is the area around Fredericksburg. They had pontoon bridges across the Rappahannock River. And they are on the map already, but you do have 3 more because that particular river covers, it kind of winds through the it winds around the edge of the battlefield, I guess you could say. Our victory conditions, as you can see here, generalship victory per the rules, strategic victory. The Union requires a path of continuous road/railroad hexes, including the pontoon bridges used to cross the Rappahannock River, no longer than 50 hexes traced from either entry hexes A, B, C, or D to entry hex K, free of Confederate zones of control, zones of influences, and can trace a continuous railroad path from any Fredericksburg hex along the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac Railroad to the CSA, entry hex A. The CSA will win a tactical or operational victory, and if the CSA wins a tactical or operation victory and denies the Union its strategic victory. Units within 6 hexes of a friendly entry hex cannot block their opponent's strategic victory conditions with either zone of control or zone of influence. Okay, so as I mentioned, you can play as either side. You can also play hot seat, which is how I would play the tabletop version if I did not have an opponent sitting across from me. We'll begin play as the Union. Loads it up. Now here's the thing. Let me zoom out here on the map so we can get a bigger picture here. Use the mini map better. So here you get a pretty good idea of what you're looking at in terms of the map. Right, this river up here is the Rappahannock River, and it goes from this edge to this edge and kind of winds along the edge. Like I said, Fredericksburg's right here. Chancellorsville itself is right in here. So this is where the battle actually took place. Now you can see Lee, he's right here, and Stonewall Jackson is down here. This was the battle at which Stonewall Jackson ended up being mortally wounded. And Lee's victory here kind of paved the way for him to make his invasion of Pennsylvania, which of course led to the Battle of Gettysburg. But at the moment, you can see he's on the heights here behind Fredericksburg. And this whole ridge line here runs all the way down over to this side. So the Confederates have their forces set up here. And we have Union forces here. They are under General Sedgwick right in here, right across from Fredericksburg, and they have the attention of the Confederate Army. Back here we have Hooker, and you can see when I hover over him, his counter appears there in the lower left, so you can see where he is. And then next to him is a detachment, I believe. No, it's Anderson, not a detachment. We do have a Confederate division, part of the 1st Corps under Anderson, right there. Up here we have, there's the detachment, Posey's detachment from the Army of Northern Virginia. And then back over here, we have units coming in from the west. Now, we have also in this one an off-map display. So if you've only played Gettysburg or Waterloo, this game, as is befitting its larger scope, it has a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, it's more involved though, for sure. There's more to it. The combat is a little bit more involved. It's still very easy to grasp the rules for this game, because they are built on the same system and it works largely the same way. There's just a little bit more to it than there are in the C3I games. So we have an off-map display. And if you click on that, you can see that there are more Union forces off-map. And these are entry hexes. And when I was reading the victory conditions, you heard mentions of A, B, C, D, etc. And here's K over here. Right, so this is the western edge of the map. We've got the Rapidan River right here. Here's the Rappahannock that comes in, and they kind of meet right here at the very edge of the board, and then the Rappahannock goes through. So this is kind of the northern edge right here, and here's Falmouth, Virginia, right? And then you've got the western side here. So any of these blue hexes are areas that the Union Army can enter its forces through. And there's a phase in the game where you can move these units. You can click on one and say move it. I can move Hancock here to Summersville, or I could move French to Summersville, right? The same rules apply on map, in that you can't have any stacking. So units will literally block each other. And it's especially true here, which is kind of an area movement where you're moving from circle to circle. And then once you're in a circle that's adjacent, like Richardsville here is adjacent to both C and D. So you could take any forces you have in Richardsville and move them into C or D. Or you can go to Germana Ford down here and go to A or B. Hartwood Church will get you to any of these from E through I. So you have options. And Fredericksburg is here. So Hooker's plan that I mentioned earlier was to kind of have a couple of armies and put Lee in between them, like split his forces essentially, and the Sedgwick army will push towards Fredericksburg and towards the ridge here to kind of keep Lee's attention, or at least some of his forces, in this area. And then the other forces would come in from the north and west, and they would kind of catch Lee's army in between them and destroy them. That was the idea. So you can see that that's what we're going to be attempting to do. And the initial turning maneuver was kind of just getting these guys around these forces and pushing on towards meeting up with Hooker, who's on the other end of the map. And you can see if we zoom in a little further here, go down, you've got, whoops, went down too far, sorry about that. Up here, we have more Confederate forces on the map edge coming on map as well. So you have multiple, you have Colston A and Colston B here. And then you have Hill, and this is Hill's division, I guess, because you've got the 2nd Corps, A, B, and C here. And then Colston's also 2nd Corps, he's A and B. Then you've got 2nd Corps here. The 2nd Corps commander is Stonewall Jackson. And so all of these guys that are 2nd Corps would be under Jackson's command. All right, so that's enough introductory blather. I'm going to get down to playing. So what you do, it's the movement phase, and my goal here is, or the way I'm going to do this, because if I show you every move, it's going to take a really long time, is I'll probably just do the moves, pause my recording, do the moves, come back, briefly show you the situation where everybody ended up, both between us and the Confederates, and then get into the combat, and that way we can keep things moving and I can get more of the game shown without having a lot of, not necessarily, it's not dead time because stuff is happening, but it's probably less interesting to watch me move units around and watch the enemy move units. But I do want to show you what it looks like when we move our units, because we can talk about this and then I don't have to show it anymore after that. So here we have Wadsworth, right? For whom a town in Ohio is named, which is very near to where I live. And Sedgwick is up here. So just like in the other games, you select the controlling headquarter and the unit, and you get green hexes that show you where he can make a move. Now, the thing to keep in mind is there are things that will flip him from his maneuvering mode, which is where he is right now, and he's got 4 movement points, to battle mode, where he would only have 1 movement point. He can basically only move 1 hex per activation. You also activate in an I go, you go method, I go, you go format, where I will make a move with 1 unit, and then the AI for the Confederacy will make a move for one of their units. That's how it works. So when I cross, if you cross a ridge line, or you cross like a stream, which is this deep run here, you know, as opposed to a major river like the Rappahannock, which can only be crossed by a bridge or a pontoon bridge. If I were to move Wadsworth here, you see he maintains his 4, right? Now, as long as I don't come within the zone of influence of any of these guys, I can continue to move up until my movement allowance is used. So he can go here and here. And if we scroll up a little bit, right, if we want to send him towards Fredericksburg, now he can get to this spot right here. And that's all he can do. So now I'm going to end my move, and then the Confederate player will move. And if we come down here and scroll over, you can see the move he made. So Colston A, that we saw previously when I was talking about the setup, is in this Confederate entry hex here. And he moved 1, 2, 3, 4. So he moved 4 hexes. And now he's up here along the rail line and is approaching the pontoon bridge where Doubleday is, of the erroneous baseball founder reputation. He was not the man who invented baseball, but he was the man for whom the mythology was based. Old Abner Doubleday. So Colston is here, and that was the Confederates' move. So I wanted to show you my move and their move, so you could see how when you play, you can always see what your opponent did, because you can see I'm up now, but you can still see the shaded hexes where the Confederate or the AI player made its move, because it works the same if you're playing as the Confederacy and the Union makes a move, you would see the same. So I think that's about it. If you haven't watched the videos I did, or any videos on this game, or Waterloo, or Gettysburg, then you may not know about this pass button up here. That ends your turn. So you can continue activating until all your units can no longer move because they're in a zone of control of the enemy. You can continue to move, or you run out of moves because your opponent passes. If your opponent passes, you'll roll a die, and you'll base that die roll on one of your commanders. We have two, one of your headquarters. We have two, and I believe the Confederacy also has two, Lee and Jackson. So you would do a die roll, and it would determine how many moves beyond the number of units who can still move you would get. So let's say Sedgwick has 6 units that are not within the zone of control of an enemy unit. You roll a die and you add that number to the 6, so he could end up with 12 or whatever. And then that's how many moves he can make once the other side has passed. So if I were to pass, the Confederacy would roll to see how many moves they get based on how many of their units are not in a Union zone of control or zone of influence. I'm not sure if it's both. I don't remember exactly, but that is how that works. So I'm not going to pass, but what I am going to do is pause the video and finish the moves here, and I'll come back and show you where everybody is, and then we'll do combat. Okay, so we're back, and as you can see here, we've got these units were all stacked up over here. We've moved them out. We've got this small detachment here, pretty much nearly surrounded, so they're not gonna, but they're acting as a really good roadblock, which is the primary purpose of the detachment, in my opinion. So we're going to try to wipe them out here in the combat phase that will be beginning soon. Here's Hooker. He's right up against them now. Hooker, he's a headquarters, so he's not really vulnerable to attack. And then up here, these two corps came on from, they were up here at entry point D, at turn start. Now to cross this ford, Eli's Ford here, to cross that they had to flip to battle mode. That's why they're in battle mode. You can see the ones denoting they're in battle mode, which also explains why they didn't get much further than that. Now similarly, I brought French here in, he was off map. He came in through G. I used the off map display. He was here at Hartwood Church. I brought him in through G and then marched him down here, and he's at a ford across the Rappahannock from Posey's detachment here. Now for the Confederacy, you can see they moved Hill, and they've moved another one of Anderson's units, starting to move them out towards Hooker and Hooker's army. They did move a few people up. These guys came in from over here, I think at entry C. So we've got the two Colstons here, along with a detachment. The Union has a heavy and artillery concentration right here. I moved the unit in to kind of protect it, because if the Confederacy gets into that hex, they will automatically remove it, and I don't want that to happen. Because of this, I can put our heavy artillery target marker within 5 hexes of the concentration. I'm going to put it on Colston B here and hit confirm. And now we can do attacks. So attacking is pretty straightforward. Here's our target, and you can pick a lead unit, and you can check, right? So we got a 6-2 here, we got a 6-2 here, we got a 6-2 here. Doesn't really make much difference which one you want to use. So we'll use Robinson, but these two can support, and that's why we have a 6, right? So the combat charts are included. You just click on the button and you can see. So the difference here from the old game, not the old games, the other games, the C3I magazine versions, is we have this tactical position determination level added to it. Both sides will get something on this range here of significant advantage, advantage, disadvantage, or significant disadvantage, and that is used over here to determine what row you look at for determining what happens, right? So there's a counterattack in here in a couple places, and then you have various things, retreats, blown, disaster, and the disaster is that involves destroying one of your artillery points, which is another thing. You have artillery points that you can add. So if you go through the battle rating summary, right, we had a 6, they had a 2. This is where those numbers come from. They both begin with a rating of 1. Artillery support, which we have not added yet, we get to decide. Okay, you can add 3 to the attacker if they have it. You add 4 to the defender if they have it, and it's optional. And we both have 19 artillery support points. And every time you use one, it expends one of those points. The attacker adds 3 for the presence of a heavy artillery target marker on or adjacent to the attacking division. Okay, so it is adjacent to the attacking division. Defender terrain modifiers. They would add the best terrain modifier if they're in a defensible terrain or field works. They add 5 if they're in an entrenchment, attack from a frontal hex side, or 5 if it's a defender in a fort. Then leadership battle stars. So the HQ has battle stars, and they have to be within the command range of a friendly headquarters in battle mode. All of the headquarters on map right now are in not in battle mode. They're in maneuver mode. So this would not apply here. Troop quality. Some units may have battle stars. If they do, they get added as well. Then you have our attack support. You get they add 2 if there's a friendly division in both the attacker and defender's zone of control, which is also true for the Union. And then core division integrity. Attacker and defender add 1 for core division integrity, which is the members of the same corps attacking together, basically. And then detachments. The attacker adds 4 if the defender is a detachment by itself, which we will see here in a moment. So that would be like up here, right? That's a detachment in a hex by itself. So now we're going to click attack, and then it's going to ask, do we want artillery support? We do. So we'll click yes. We're hoping for a big roll here. We got a 9, they got a 1, so we got a significant advantage, they got a disadvantage. So you can see here, you've got your die roll column and your row of battle rating. And you can also see that they managed to match us. We started at 6-2 before all the modifiers because they got this 3 for leadership bonus. And we'll look at that in a moment. But the die roll, the combat die roll was the difference here. We got a 9, they got a 1. So their 1, the best they could have done is if they had a battle rating of 10 or higher, they would have gotten an advantage. But this is all bad. Rolling low is bad, rolling high is good. You can see with a 9 or higher, you get A's across the board here. A to SA, which is obviously significant advantage. So we should do well. Significant advantage against a disadvantage is going to be a positive result typically. You have defender blown. So just like in the other games, if the defender is blown, they get pulled off the map and return later. So as we come off that, you can see the Confederacy elected to do no attacking. So we can now perform 9 more attacks, which we won't, but we could if we wish to. Now, talking about, if you click on in here, trying to remember where. But you can see there's a glossary where you can look things up, right? And what's that? You can also get to the rule book. Is it under here? Attacking. So you can see, right? I think the rules are on the home page of the game. Actually, is where you can get the rules. So now we can follow that up by attacking this guy with these guys, and now it's a 7-1 advantage. And so let me close this, and you can see terrain effects, All right, so here's our terrain effects chart, and this is the full-size version, but you can zoom in. So if we look, a lot of times formation effects, right? It talks about formation change. That's going from maneuver mode to battle mode. And then you can have effects on maneuver and battle separately. Only battle formation can cross, etc. So I think, talking about a creek, only battle formations can cross defensible terrain if attacking division, and all support, if any, are across the hex side. Now in this case, there is a stream here, and there's a stream here, so this would apply here, I think. So they will get a bonus for that. They did lose their core and division cohesion because they're alone now. So we're going to try it. We're going to add artillery support. We'll see if they add, and they did, and we got a 10-8, and we rolled an 8, and they rolled a 0. So again, this is going to end up being another blown result. And yep, defender blown. So we've wiped those two off the map, at least temporarily. And they had to check for a leader casualty. So that means that their leader, their HQ, which is Jackson. Jackson is in battle mode. So that's where that leadership came from. You see he's got 3 stars. Because he was in battle mode, which is denoted by the cannon here, that's where that the 3 for leadership came from. So now we have our detachment here, and we will attack him as well. Actually, let's use this guy, 11-1. So this should be a pretty easy one. We will not use artillery support. They did not either, and they got an advantage, and we got a significant advantage. And that is defender retreat, which in the case of a detachment results in elimination. So that was a very successful attack for us. Now we have a couple other things to look at least. So we have this detachment, and we have Wadsworth, who has a battle star. So it's 8-1. They're not from the same corps, so you don't get the integrity bonus. But we will attack. We will can't use artillery because we're attacking a town. So they can, but we did not. So we had an 8-1 net battle rating, and this is going to end up with them being eliminated as well. So we eliminate them from Fredericksburg. You can see down here we now have 2 victory points. And let's see, if I want to attack here, I think my odds here are going to be bad. 5-4. Now see, that's a lot more dicey. I'm not trying to put a pun on it, but that is more dicey for sure. So we can try it. This probably won't turn out well. I'll even add some artillery support to give me a little bit extra advantage here. And well, it worked out because they rolled poorly and I rolled reasonably well. So that is going to result in them being eliminated, and me getting across the river, which was what I was hoping for. So things worked out really well for me. We've got one more thing to take care of, that's down here. And we'll have Pleasanton 8-4. It's the defensible terrain probably. And we can't request it artillery, so we won't. And 8-4, we rolled, oof. This is going to not be anything good. Counterattack. So because it's a detachment, again, their result ends up being recalled, which means they get pulled back. It's essentially like a blown result for a regular unit. They end up going back into the pool, and they can be deployed again later. But in the meantime, they're off map, and we have now removed our roadblocks, so we will now pass because we no longer have any combat we want to do. And we did pretty well, I would say. So let's go onward. First player's union per scenario rules. So this is the second turn now. This is the night turn, the PM turn. Per scenario, these two stay. Then you get redeployment checks for all your headquarters. And again, Stonewall rolled low, so he has to stay where he is, which is kind of a bummer for them, because I'm sure the Confederacy probably would have wanted to relocate him, maybe even if only by a few hexes. And Lee will be able to redeploy, so I'm sure he's going to redeploy further west and leave Jackson back to hold in the Fredericksburg area. So we do not have any HQs to be placed. They will place theirs, and let's see if we can spot where they put them. So here's Lee right here, like I said, kind of in the middle. He's sitting there with Hill, and then Jackson, of course, remained where he was. And you can see he's in battle mode. And that's that. So Union player may place detachments. Now each HQ can place one detachment. So we can place our own roadblocks if we want, except we really probably would only be able to take advantage of that down here. So if we click on Hooker and then click a detachment, and let's say we want Buford, and click him, we don't have anywhere we can actually put them because of the unit that's adjacent to Hooker, I believe. But if we select Sedgwick, then we can. So in order to, let's put them here. Okay, and that's all we can do because the Confederacy is blocking Hooker from being able to place anybody. We'll hit done. Now we can recall detachments. And I'm not sure how you recall the heavy artillery. Maybe you can't. So we don't have anybody to recall, I don't believe. No, we don't. Done. Okay, off-map movement. So now, if we wish to, and this is just moving around on the off-map stuff, so I can't take Hancock and say go to F. That won't work here. I could move, like, let's move Humphrey to Germanna Ford, right? And then we can move Everett to, I want to go to Kelly's Ford, Summersville, to bring them in more north side. Let's go to Summersville. I'm going to bring him in north side, I think, because we're going to bring Hancock in somewhere in this. We can go E, F, G, H, or I. Might be interesting to bring him in at I. And then we've got the Union camps here that we can bring these three guys in. So I think this turn I'm going to focus on bringing in some of the rest of these guys that can get on map. And we'll hit close there. Now we're done. Now, the checked units that will flip. So if you're not within the zone of control or zone of influence of an enemy, you can automatically be flipped back to advanced formation, or normal formation as I tend to call it. But you can also elect not to do that if you wish, because say you were trying to ford a river, or you were about to advance into woods or something, you can just stay in battle mode because you're going to be in battle mode anyway by making that move. I will let everybody get flipped, and then on this end we've got some more that you can see. But pretty much everybody can get flipped except for the ones that are already in advanced mode. So I'll hit confirm. Then the Confederates get all that. We get to flip. Everybody's flipping to march formation. And now you can disengage. What that means is if you have a unit, like this guy right here, Newton, is adjacent to Anderson, I can elect to retreat him, but I don't want to do that. So we're going to pass. And now we can move. So now we're back to the movement phase. So my plan is to try and get these guys across the river, bring in some of the new ones. Maybe I'll show you how that works. So if we go back to the off-map display, and we have Barry, Whipple, and Bernie here that we can move in. So I could click him and say he's coming in right here. You can see Barry, sorry, has entered the map here. Now that's my move. He can't. Oh, he can move further, but he's kind of blocked here by Gibbon. So we'll just leave him there. If I put him up here, he's going to flip to the other mode, which I don't want. So I'll just hit end move. Now they're moving, and again, you can see what they're doing by going and looking for the red. They're on the mini map. He's moving hill up. I need to start making sure I get these forces forward. So we're going to take him, and we're going to say Hooker, and he's going to move down the orange turnpike here. Okay, so he's done. And you can see this is Chancellorsville right here where Hooker's headquarters is. And the Confederates are moving their men up, as you would expect. Now we'll activate another one of these guys. We'll take Williams. And, well, let's take, what corps is he? He's 11th Corps. So let's take Shirts, who's also 11, and so is Devens. And we'll have them move along the Culpeper Plank Road to Orange Plank Road. And, oh, I didn't go through, but you can undo, right? So now he's back here. And we have to select Hooker again. Now if he goes here, 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 you can see, you gotta stay on the road. That gives you the ability to go a lot further. And then probably gonna move these guys up a little bit more. I got a guy up here. Hill A, he's heading towards French. Okay, so let's, speaking of French, he's the 2nd Corps, so let's move him here, here, here. And stop right there. Make him go off-road or come and attack, one or the other. Alright, so he moved Anderson out of there, which is probably fine. Now, we should move Devens. So you want to keep your corps together so you get corps integrity. So let's have him move. Oh, he was not on the road. So unfortunately, that kind of stinks. I think I should actually just move someone else. And then I'll show you what we can do here by moving some roadblocks out of the way. And move him there and stop. Okay, Confederates are moving. All right. They're going to try to move. So, playing a game here. Play a game of chicken with these guys. Now I'm on A. So he moved down that way. All right. Now let's move him here. Oh, zone of influence, so he went to 1. Okay, I'm going to move him again to move him here. Alright, and now we'll move Shirts. As you can see, I'm preparing to fight Anderson here. So they got a guy coming up from the south. That is F. Lee. Okay. So I'm going to attempt to get these two up here, because I think if I move him here, he won't be going into the woods, so he won't have to get into battle mode. And then I can move Geary down this way. And let's see, looking at where they're. Let's move them. So what I'm going to do, I think, is I'll pause so that you don't need to watch me moving the rest of my units, and I'll come back and tell you where everybody is. Okay, we've made it to the attack phase here. Now, as you can probably see, well, I moved Berry down from up here. I moved Whipple from off map. So if we come to the off map, you can see Berry and Whipple are off, as is, shoot, I forget who it is. It's, shoot. Hancock. It was I know the name because he was a big part of Gettysburg. So Hancock is over there, and he moved in because I'm trying to get my corps together here. So the problem is Gibbon is second corps, and second corps. So we got first. Up here you got 6 and 6, right? And we got 6 here and first here. So I'm trying to kind of get my units back together because I kind of split them willy-nilly there in that first turn, which was dumb. I put my heavy artillery marker here. So Burnham is here. He's now in the zone of influence of early B. So he's there. There's not probably going to be much fighting on this turn. This is still trying to get units in place for fighting. And so what I may do is move Wadsworth down this road and in here. And then I would also have to try and get these two, Doubleday and Robinson, who are part of his corps, move them up the road, which would mean moving some of these other guys out, such as Gibbon. So we can move Gibbon up as well because he's second corps. But we've got first corps for the Confederates. Anderson is over here. Then we've got 2 second corps units, Hancock and French, that came on through entry hex G. They're there. So down here we've got the 11th Corps, which may be the only attack we do, and I'll look at it to decide if I think it's worthwhile. We got Schurz and von Steinwehr. Now Anderson here has a battle star, so that makes me a little reluctant because he's got good defensible terrain, and even though it's a 2-to-1 attack, it probably isn't going to work out great. In fact, we can look right now. It's a disadvantage, so we're gonna pass on that. And that's the only place we have an attack. I was not able, because the Confederacy stopped moving, I rolled a 1, so I didn't end up having a lot of extra moves to make. Enough to get Hancock on the map, which is what I wanted, but I'm going to pass on attacks, and we'll see if they only have a couple places. Like we could attack here as well, but again, that's a bad move, so we will pass. And they get potentially 10, but I don't know if they're going to even do any, and they did not. So that ends this turn. So now we're about to flip to turn 3, which is May 1st. And I think what I'm going to do here is stop the video. We'll pick this up with a further video later on this week, because I may play this whole thing out only because it's very easy. Part of the reason that I don't do a lot of tabletop games with 3, 4, 5 episodes is, well, twofold. First, interest in them tends to wane after the first 1 or 2, depending on the game, of course. Secondly, though, is setup space. right? Because I try to mix things up here on the channel, so I do multiple games. I typically play more than one game in a week, and I don't have enough space to keep everything set up, so I have to pull it down, and then I set something else up, and then I play that. So that's what's going on here. This being a digital game will allow me to play it out to a greater degree. So that's where we are right now, and that will do it for this one. I do appreciate you guys watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll come back for the next installment here. As I said, I would likely play at least the rest of the Chancellorsville game here, and then perhaps down the road we'll do some of the other battles. I would really love to do Chickamauga and Chattanooga kind of as a back-to-back, because the two battles were Chickamauga was a Confederate victory that pushed Rosecrans' army back, the Army of the Cumberland, back up to Chattanooga. They were under siege for a while, then they broke it. They put Grant in charge of the entire Western Theater, and he kind of came in there and cleaned up the act. Rosecrans got fired. They promoted George Thomas to command the Army of the Cumberland, and then they had the Battle of Chattanooga, where they brought Sherman in as well. So Sherman was commanding a corps, and Thomas had a corps, and Grant was in overall command, and they pushed Bragg, who was commanding the Confederate Army, pushed him out of there and took over with Missionary Ridge and Lookout Mountain and everything were involved in both of those battles. So Western Theater, which I find very interesting for some reason. This is obviously not the Western Theater, but still, this is an interesting situation here, I think, and I'd like to play this out, and then we'll play out something else down the road. So, like I said, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Otherwise, that's all, and I will be talking at you again sometime soon. I'm Joe. This is Hexed Encountered, and until next time, as always, happy gaming.